All right, welcome everyone. I'm Jim Boomer, CEO of Boomer Consulting, and I'll be your host for today's webinar, From Theory to Practice, How Firms Are Transforming Audit with Confidence. I'm joined today by an awesome panel of Matt Smith, Caitlin Morin, and John Garrity, who I'll introduce in just a moment, but welcome to all three of you. Look forward to having a great conversation. I also want to give a big thank you to Inflow, who is the sponsor of today's webinar. But we're kind of mixing it up here. You're not actually going to hear from them directly today, and in fact, that was deliberate. They wanted this to be about the firm stories and not about a technology provider. So the next hour, we'll be having an authentic discussion between peer firms about their real life experiences. Why the firms change, where are they in the stage, just basically giving you their story. As well as we'll probably have some conversation amongst the four of us. So Inflow's role here is really to enable transformation, and they believe that they can do that behind the scenes by allowing you to hear directly from the people that are actually doing the work. So before I get started, just a few housekeeping items. First, we will be offering CPE credit for today's webinar. To receive CPE, you'll need to participate in at least 3 of the polling questions that will come up and complete the survey that will be sent out later today. Secondly, today's webinar will be recorded and we'll send that out after we're done. If you need closed captioning, just turn that on in your Zoom menu and you should be good to go. Finally, we're happy to entertain questions from the audience today. Since you're muted, I'll be keeping an eye on the Q&A feature. If you have a question specific to one of us, maybe put that in the question. If it's a more general question, I'll play air traffic control and get it to the right people. If we run out of time and we don't get to your question, we'll make sure somebody follows up with you after the conclusion of the webinar. So now I want to introduce our panelists for today's webinar. So Matt Smith joined YHB in 2008 after graduating from Radford University. At YHB, he has focused his efforts on providing assurance and consulting services to private companies in construction and real estate industries. Through his active participation in industry trade associations and continuous industry-specific training and education, Matt has obtained a wealth of knowledge and a deep understanding of these industries. Caitlin Morin is a manager in Wolf's Assurance Group, where she provides services to financial institutions and employee benefit plans. Over the last 5 years, she has performed several SOX and Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation Improvement Act integrated audits. Caitlin also has an active role in the firm's in-house audit quality task force, helping to determine how new audit and audit-related standards impact the audit and accounting practice. And then last but not least, John Garrity is a partner at the firm and runs Brixey and Myers Audit and Assurance Services team, which helps clients remain in compliance with their reporting requirements and helps businesses ensure their financial statements are accurate, organized, and positioned as a tool for helping them achieve both short and long-term goals. So, welcome. With that, we'll kick things off with the exciting topic of our first polling question. So we'll get the audience off and going and used to doing these questions. So our first one is really kind of gauging where all of you are in terms of stage of transformation. So let us know. Have you not started? Are you exploring options? Are you in a pilot? Are you fully implemented, or is this not applicable? So, and Brandon, if you can convert me to host, I'll be able to see the percentages. I'm sorry, I should have done that before we went live. Um, all right, there we go. It looks like we have about 76% that have come in. So as a reminder, we need you to answer three of the questions, at least three of the questions. We'd love it if you answered all of our questions. So we will give it another 5 seconds. Going once, going twice. All right, sold. Okay. Well, it looks like almost 60% are exploring options. And in our when we were on here a little bit before, we were talking about how a lot of firms are in that stage of trying to figure out what we're going to do, what's the best process. So I really think that these stories are going to be helpful to a lot of people in our audience. Probably the second highest was people in a pilot, so trying different solutions, and we've got about 12% or 5% that are fully implemented, and we've got a handful that are not applicable. But only one of the audience has not started. So we are going to start off, and each of our panelists is kind of at a different stage in this journey. So we're going to kind of take it in order of where their firms are. So, Caitlin, you're the lucky leadoff hitter here to kick us off. Maybe you can just share a little bit of your story of, you know, why'd you get started? What were the first steps? Any lessons you learned? Anything you think this group or the people listening would take value from?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jim. And thank you for hosting today's discussion. We're really excited to talk about transformation. And like Jim mentioned, a lot of you are in that exploring options or piloting phase, which is fantastic because we were where you were at about a year ago. So for background, I'm from Wolf & Company. We're a 400-person firm based out in Boston, Massachusetts. Our assurance department's about 120 folks. I've been with the company for about 7 years, and over the last year, I've led our search and rollout of a new audit software. For a bit of background, we used caseware working papers with RSM's methodology for over 15 years. It worked well. It was essentially the electronic binder. There was a little bit of friction, I would say, when the pandemic hit. It kind of became a little bit obvious we were a little bit behind. Some of the pain points where it was hard to manage tasks, maintain accountability across the team members, and track progress. You would open up a caseware file and you weren't sure, well, is it 50% done or 90% done? You really had to rely on your team to communicate that. It was sort of hard to track. We actually started looking at task management solutions first, but none of them really stood out as a solution to that problem. The real turning point was when RSM announced the sunsetting of their methodology. So that gave us a deadline. We had a year to figure out a new solution. So we first started out getting a task force. So we gathered some of our key stakeholders. That was folks from audit, as well as tax folks, data security, and project management. And we really laid out what our needs were. I think that was the easiest part. So we just said we needed to be in a cloud software. That was one of the first ones. We couldn't be in a desktop application anymore. The other key needs were we had public company audits we needed to do. So we needed to make sure they had PCAOB content, as well as financial institutions. So we needed content for that. And we did a number of integrated audits. So we needed to be able to test controls. Those needs were a little bit easier to meet. I think most vendors had that. So we were able to narrow it down to 3 to actually pilot. And that's when we sort of started looking at what our goal was. I think initially we said, let's replace caseware. But then when we started looking, we were like, well, nothing really was going to replace caseware. And we didn't necessarily want it to. We wanted something a bit more forward looking. So of the 3 that we piloted, the easiest way to put it in buckets, one felt like a step backwards, one felt like a step sideways, and the last one, Inflow, felt like a step forward. And one of the important things about Inflow was their roadmap. We actually, their vision really aligned with our vision, and we actually felt like they could meet those milestones. What they laid out seemed very attainable. It was a year, 2 years out. And even just from the demo process in July to when we started contracting, they met those milestones right on time. So we did our first training in April. I think that was a little bit difficult. Just because we trained most of our principals and managers right away. So sort of threw them in there. I think looking back, we probably would have taken a train the trainer approach, so done a smaller group. But again, we were working with RSM's timeline. We had a year, so we sort of had to toss people into it. And then we went live in June. So our goal was to do our 630 quarterly audits or reviews in Inflow. I think that was a great idea. It got people exposure in sort of a smaller scale environment before doing a full rollout. And then we also learned pretty early on to focus on the modules that people needed to learn in order to do their audits. So one thing about Inflow is they have several modules. So they have the work paper module, which would be like a caseware, but then they also had data analytics, a PPC request system, so sort of like a Shore link or an audit dashboard. And then they had a lot of analytical things over like revenue. It's a bit overwhelming at first. So our focus was certainly what do we need to do to get audits done? And we scaled to that approach. And then looking forward, we really want to expand into the other modules. So looking to get our clients in the software, but make sure our teams are comfortable. But we're really excited about where we're at and where we're going to be.
All right. Thank you, Caitlin. I love what you said of you started out saying we're going to replace the software, and that probably leads you to think feature and function. And you took a step back and you said, what's our ultimate goal? And that's right in line with what we advise clients to do is step back and define your why and what you're trying to accomplish from a much bigger picture. So I love that. We did have a question come in, but Ben, I'm going to hold it until we hear from each of the three panelists, and then but I got it, and we will make sure that one gets answered. So, as I said, we started with kind of early stage, and Caitlin shared that they've made a decision and kind of how they went about that. We're going to kind of move into mid journey with John, and so if you can kind of give us your story.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Jim, and thanks for the opportunity to talk to the group. And thanks, Caitlin. I think your story is similar to ours. So, as a partner with Brixey and Meyer, we're a younger firm, very growth oriented. So we wanted a tool that was going to be able to grow with us. We had, similar to Caitlin, been with as a part of an alliance that we're members of with their audit tool and their audit methodology. So we had a bit of a forced change. In December of 2023, our alliance said, hey, we're not going to continue to support the tool. We're not going to support the function. So you have until September. So we had a really tight runway of time to get a change done. So we pretty quickly, and even in our audit season of 2024, February, March, spun up a small team of folks internally. We're a regional firm, we're about 100 folks right now. So a smaller team than what Caitlin has to work with. So we rallied a team of our auditors, senior managers. We even include a senior and a staff on the team to start to understand what's in the market, what technology exists today, and then where's our roadmap going to be as we go forward. So during our audit season, we kicked off that journey. And then similar to Caitlin, we kind of had a rubric of things that made sense to us, right? We didn't want to take a step back. We didn't want to be in a technology that was going to end up getting replaced in 3 to 5 years, because we knew if we were going to make a change, this was going to be a change for the long term. And we wanted to be on the front side of technology. So this world that we're in is changing rapidly. There's an evolution in how the practice is operating within the audit tool. So we wanted to be on the front side of that. So once we went through and really worked hard to vet the systems and the tools that were available, we, similar to Caitlin, narrowed it down to three. And of the three, then ultimately we did select Inflow. And it was really a lot of those similarities, the project roadmap, the attention to detail from the team, the history that they've got from work that they've done overseas and could bring to show we've made improvements, we've made growth over the years, they've lived up to their word. And some of the things that are there for them were really spoke highly to us. We also liked the use of data and the way that it integrates the client's data into our audit in a really meaningful way and gave our team a lot of visibility into what was going on. And so once we made that decision, so again, we had a pretty tight runway to make that decision. And so we made our decision in September. We started training on literally October 16th, not the best day because our team was just coming out of 401k audit season, and we went straight for it because we had to be off of our old platform effective 10/1. We couldn't put new engagements into it. So we had to make that change quickly. We had our whole team in our office. Inflow sent trainers to us, and we went kind of just all the way into it and learned as much as we could as quickly as we could. I'd say a key to our success, and especially in those early days, and then throughout our first audit season in Inflow, Tom was our Inflow rep. He stayed with us the entire way. We had a weekly call with him where our team, our Inflow team, could get on with him, say, hey, this is something we're running into. It wasn't urgent that we had to get with you, but this is on our kind of task list of questions or things we need. He would either know the answer or could get us the answer very quickly, and we could keep things moving forward. We had then a internal communication that we would circle back. Hey, here's a best practice. Here's how we're doing this. Here's how we're doing that. So we were sort of building that plane as we could fly it. And unfortunately, we had to do it. It was just kind of a forced change. Let me step back a minute. When we got that news from our alliance firm the platform was going to be discontinued, like it hurt, right? It was a little bit of a gut punch. We had been on that for about 10 years, and we liked the tool. We didn't have any complaints about it. We could see it starting to age out, and we knew there were changes coming, but didn't expect this change. But pretty quickly, I'll credit our team and really our mindset went to good. This is the best opportunity for us. We're going to get ahead of change in the industry and we're going to have the best platform we can get. So our team had that mindset all throughout. So one, staying positive was really helpful. We could have gotten down in the dumps with things and said, this is terrible. We got kicked in the nose on this, but we really stayed positive and pushed through it. And that's a huge credit to our team. So as we worked through the season, again, I'll echo what Caitlin said. We talked about it in this way: crawl, walk, run, right? We have to be able to crawl, get the basics, do the audit with a high quality, and move through the tool in the right way. So we didn't pull all the bells and whistles and do all the things that we needed to do, but we got the audit done and met our quality expectations in doing so. And then as the season went on, we started to walk a little bit more and say, okay, we've got this now. We can try this and we can try that. And then one thing we did do in the summer, so in the May timeframe, we called back the trainers from Inflow and said, now that we've seen it once, we want you to go through this training again because we've got a different perspective on the tool. We had a really intelligent discussion. It was a tremendous, value add for our team. And we walked away from that and then kicked off what we are calling our Inflow Excellence Initiative for the summer of 2025. So one of my big pet peeves is when we have technology, but we don't use it to its fullest capacity. So that is where we're at right now. We're moving out of walk and into run. Like we want to own the tool and use it to its highest capability. So really proud of our team going through this and really appreciative of Inflow for their support throughout this. They were willing to bring those folks back on. As I mentioned, Tom stayed with us every step of the way. And continues to do so. We talk to him once a month now. We don't need to talk to him every week, which is great. But he is willing to talk to us, and we have great opportunities there. And we keep feeding the pipeline of things that are in development, upvoting those, and driving for what we want to see changed in the tool. So it's been a positive experience along the way. And we got, again, kind of dealt a bad hand, but we made the best out of it. So again, proud of the team and where we're at.
Thanks, John. Yeah, that whole point you made about positivity is huge. And we all have a choice with everything of do we look at it as a challenge or do we flip it and go, this is an opportunity. And it sounds like your team really did make that flip and say, okay, we have an opportunity to move forward and change. But at the same time, misery loves company. So I can assure you, you weren't the only firm that had that same feeling when they were notified. We heard it a lot.
Yep. That's
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing I was gonna say was, even though you were forced to move, like sometimes you're best to just get in motion
Yep.
and get some wins. Um, and so I think that's great. And it's not always the most comfortable when you're forced.
100%. I mean, no doubt about it. We would still be in that old tool today, doing things the way we always did them. And one thing our CEO and a big kind of focus for our team is, we don't get where we're going by doing what we did yesterday. We've got to keep moving forward. So what got us here won't get us there. And we see inflow as the tool that can get us there, right? And to the continued growth of the firm. And we wouldn't have been making that change had we not been forced to. So again, looked back and said, good, this is a good opportunity. So
Yeah. The last thing I'll comment on your story is that, with the training, you touched on a often ignored, but such a critical piece of the change process, which is reinforcement. So often we implement a new technology and we train, before anybody's been in there and really knows what they're looking for. And then we never circle back to reinforce that and train up people. So I think that's great to, reach for excellence now and go through a second stage. All right. Well, I think we're due for our second polling question. So let's see what your barriers are. What's the biggest barrier your firm faces in making technology changes? Is it leadership buy-in, staff adoption, technology integration, resource constraints, or unclear direction? And I'm sure there's several of you out there going, I wish I had multi-select, or is there an all of the above?
Are exactly my thoughts.
Yeah, we're going to make you pick the top one, though. So we had a higher percentage than the first one. So we'll give it another 15 seconds and then we'll close this one out and share the results. This one has a little more of a even spread. All right. All right. Going once, going twice. All right. There we go. Okay. So technology integration is the top one, followed by pretty close tie. I mean, it's close to a tie of staff adoption, unclear direction. Very few leadership buy-in. So is that kind of consistent with you threes? I mean, we heard, I wish I could pick all of them, right? But was the integration a key? I mean, it was a key part of what you were looking for, right?
Definitely was, but I would say that to think that you don't run into all five of those in any transformational change, you're going to run into all five. But
Yeah.
the integration was definitely something that I know the YHB at least looked into deeply as we made our decision is how can we integrate some of our systems and not just have these, highest and best use platforms across the entire department. So that was a key focus area for us, Jim.
Yeah, and even in a partnership model, even if you have leadership buy-in of at the very top of the firm or the executive committee, there could potentially be potentially and likely partners that have a different view that can play a role, and you need to be aware and knowledgeable and be able to plan for that. And that again is a big part of the change process. So all right.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead, John.
Our tax and our audit team had been on different systems for a while, so that wasn't as big of a barrier. I know that can be, and it is forcing some audit teams to go to a tool so that tax can stay with them. We've been doing it for a long time. It's not held us up and it's not slowed us down. So I would encourage folks to, if that's been the model, that's fine, but be open to exploring things that are outside of that traditional way where tax and audit all use the same platform for the work.
John, I'll just add, I love that comment as well. When we first started to look at this, our tax team was so terrified of separating systems from the assurance department, and we found that it has not created as much strain as they thought. At the end of the day, if your communication sucks, you got to do a root cause analysis, right? If it's the communication barriers between assurance and tax, it doesn't matter what platform you're on, it's not going to fix it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great call out.
All right. Well, we're going to hear a third story. And Chris, I see your question. Oh, we got more questions coming in, but I'm going to hold them all of them until after we get through our three stories. So Matt, you're queued up to give us the perspective of a little further along in the journey.
First of all, thank you, Jim. Thank you, Inflow, for inviting me to speak with two great innovators, in Caitlin and John as well. YHB, we're around a 330 person firm based out of the Northern Virginia area. Assurance department makes up about 90. We have a strong emphasis in financial institutions, construction, nonprofit, and we do public work in the FI space. So with that little quick additional background, um, John and Caitlin, thank you for what you've shared because my story is very similar in terms of why we're at where we're at today, in terms of kind of that forced change, for lack of a better term. And just hearing you all speak and just sitting here, even as a panelist, and hearing you all speak about it in the way that you did, it just continues to reinforce for me that we're doing the right thing. There's a lot of people in this same position and situation. And it honestly just excites me. It makes me want to, go out here now and continue to push these things forward. In terms of our journey, again, I'm not going to bore you with the start. You've already heard it twice. Very similar situation. We boiled it down and we included a cross section of our team from admin all the way up through principal. Um, in hindsight, that couldn't have been a better decision. And I think is one takeaway that I encourage anyone that's in the process of doing the pilots or currently evaluating or still maybe just now dipping your toe into it. Um, I'm a firm believer that anytime that we just make decisions at the top and push it down, you're going to meet more resistance than if you include those that are impacted the most in that decision making process. Um, I don't think that I'm, the world's greatest leader. I think that sometimes I just come across blind luck. And in that approach, it was amazing the momentum that we had coming from the team. So went from being part of the advisory council as part of RSM, bringing that process in-house to my cross section of the team, keeping my decision silent on where I landed as part of that advisory council, which was Inflow, and found that the team landed on that same answer. So from there, I had the momentum of a cross section of about 14%, or not 14%, sorry, 14 people out of my 90-person department that then were my influencers. So through that process, I then had a group of 14 amazing influencers that went out to their respective teams and said, hey, no big change like this doesn't come without pain, but it's exciting. Let's dive in. So that kind of covers kind of the catalyst piece and some of the process. So some things in terms of the way that we did operate as an assurance department that I think was very eye-opening as we went through the onboarding of Inflow, and now we're kind of deep into the use of it, is really just found that with so many managers and so many principals and different industry specializations, we really started negatively impacting audit quality, whether we want to take a step back and truly acknowledge that or continue to just do what we've always done. When you don't have that standardization across teams, you're using a document management platform and layering in it a methodology on top. We just found that over decades of using this, well before my time at the firm, that there was fracturing in quality, fracturing in approach, and that just leads to inefficiencies in the way we do our work, potential quality issues, which again, I think we're a very high quality firm, but let's be honest, that anytime you have non-standardized processes and everyone doing it the way they want to do it, there's quality issues. And really training issues. So a very negative impact to the team that you're trying to train on a consistent way so that they can go and execute their highest and best use. So through this process of transition to Inflow, another lesson learned and a really neat bright spot that's come out of it is some of the most unsuspecting team members that you could have imagined that would have had a significant impact, right? That introverted accountant that's head down in the work and never lifts their head up. I had a principal come in and said, Matt, this is going to be the worst. I can't believe we have to do this. So I'm out at dinner the next day with our new hires, and this gentleman is there, and I'm like, hey, your principal, one of the guys on your team is kind of really upset about this. Like, what's your perspective? He's like, oh, well, what they're worried about, I already figured out. I'm like, then go preach it, right? Like go meet with them. So it's communication in these times of change is so critical. And that is one area that if I could reel back 6 months, I would improve even more in our process is making sure that you find ways to identify those innovators. They might be the most unsuspecting people, so give everyone a shot and make sure that you develop systems of communication to where they are all talking and they're interrelated, regardless of what team, what manager, what principal, because that is how you will continue to build more and more momentum that helps ease that burden of change. Because we've seen the team go through the valleys, right? You get to the point of selecting a platform and we're all excited, everyone's hyped up, and then it actually gets to the day of implementation and you're down in the valley of despair, right? If any of you have followed change curves, and I don't know who wrote it, it surely wasn't me. But you're going to go through those valleys of despair, and you have to have those influencers and those glimpses of hope that all of a sudden bring people back out of it. And I'm excited to say that we're definitely past that valley of despair at this point, and the teams are really collaborating. We're standardizing our processes. It gave us a way to reset the way we audit, what we bring into our files, and something that Mark Edmondson said at one point that really resonated with me. And we've taken advantage of this opportunity. And it's funny, I actually was talking with my tax lead last week, and I actually saw it on a sticky note on our computer, which it's just really cool. But anytime you go through these processes, you look for what you can eliminate, what you can simplify, what you can standardize. And after you go through those 3 cycles, now you're at the point of being able to automate. And that's the future, right? Is what can we eliminate, simplify, standardize, and then automate to allow us as leaders and us as client servers and having to get the work done. Like, how do we continue to lean into to the highest and best use? So a few lessons learned there. In terms of moving forward, some things I'm really excited about, and John, you alluded to this is kind of part of your next chapter, which I wholeheartedly agree with, and is where we're at now. But it's around moving past the walking stage now. I'm one that always pushes, let's run out of the gate, which creates a lot of friction with those that want to crawl out of the gate. But I'm always happy if we land at walking, right? But then once they get to walking, I'm there to say, okay, now we got to run. So I really like that crawl, walk, run. But we've formed another task force of those influencers that are excited and have shown the ability to really pick up inflow and run with it. And we're now diving into all of the various modules um, to identify how we can get client value out of them. Not just saying, hey, client, we now have this amazing platform that we've made this significant investment in, and we're just going to hand it over to you for free. There's value within the investment in these platforms. And it's our job now to figure out how to unlock that value and how to go to the client with a value proposition. The ability and the insights and the data analytics and the graphs and the visuals and being able to invite the client into that, I think can unlock an immense amount of value for our clients as we continue to hear these buzzwords in the industry. Think back 7 or 8 years ago, AI was a buzzword. And a lot of us, maybe even myself included, sat back and thought, oh gosh, that's never going to impact the CPA industry. We're just founded and rooted in compliance services. It'll never change. Don't think that today. And I hope no one on this call does. So it's kind of a call to leaning more into this transformation and these digital tools as we continue to see that a lot of what we do can be done by automation. I'm a firm believer that it doesn't replace our people that are willing to upskill. And we have to provide them the tools to give them the ability to upskill. Otherwise, we're not moving and we're dead in the water. So for me, a huge part of this transformation and change and where my focus was the people. We're a client service industry. Love my clients. We're nothing without them. But without people, we don't have clients. We can't serve clients. Our people grew up with supercomputers in their hands. They want these tools. And as we've leaned into it, we found that they are just picking it up and running with it. And we were crazy enough to drop a new ERP platform at the same time. So if you really want a story of chaos, I can talk much more with anyone else offline. But we're working through two major changes, and we have a lot of positive momentum, and I'm excited to see where it continues to take us as a firm.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Good stuff. And I think I liked your point about you may have a preconceived notion of who's going to be your key players and innovators, but you have to keep an open mind going into it because some people will surprise you.
You have to find a Caitlin. I'll give you props, Caitlin, right? Like I had a Caitlin on my team, and I don't know what I would have done without her, right? Like you got to find that cheerleader, that champion, that person that gets it. So
Yeah. And I think you really emphasize the communication and that change process. It's so critical as well. If there's a void in the communication for why and what, people fill that void, and you end up with a lot of misinformation, a lot of confusion, anxiety, all of those things. So I don't think you can really over communicate in a change like this.
great.
So, all right. We've got our third polling question popping up here. Caitlin kicked us off and she talked about backing up to talk about goal. What's our underlying goal? Well, we're asking you, what's your primary goal for digital transformation? Again, this is probably one you want in all of the above, but primary is the key word. So, reducing time, improving quality, enhancing client experience, the talent piece, or staying competitive. We'll give you a minute to answer the poll. So a couple reminders. One, for CPE purposes, we need you to answer at least 3 questions. The other thing, if you have questions, I see we've got a queue of several, but if you're sitting on a question, click on the Q&A in the toolbar and type it in, and we'll get to those here shortly. All right, going once, going twice. All righty. It looks like the leader is reducing time and then staying competitive behind that. I want to hear from our panelists. So if you had been participating in that poll, what would your top goal? It's a little more down in the weeds, Caitlin, than I think your big picture goal of, preparing for the future. But Caitlin, which one do you think would have been resonated with you?
I would say quality. So, as you mentioned, I'm on the audit quality task force. It's something I love, but I think like Matt alluded to, there's standardization goes along with quality. And then it leads you to automation. So don't just think, I think quality is just so important as you adopt these tools. Keep that in mind. And for us with Inflow, I will say, and we touched on it briefly, but they have a lot of customization that's available within the platform, which really enhances quality and standardization. So pushing through templates and work programs is really easy. It's something we couldn't do and wasn't really possible in our old system.
All right, thank you. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, it's just I'm sitting here smirking because I'm like, man, the save time. I don't know how to speak to that because I think that I just from my perspective, the competitive piece and the staff piece. You think about the tools that our clients are going to have that they have the ability to drop stuff into now, right? They have ChatGPT, they have Microsoft Copilot. We have to figure out how to stay ahead of our clients in order to retain our value proposition, and also stay ahead of our peers in the market, or at least be on the same plateau with the peers in our market as they start identifying different ways to produce insights and complete an audit timely and provide more value through that process. It's above and beyond just the compliance aspect. It's a key piece. The time I don't think I can sit here necessarily say that any of the platforms that we looked at were going to be a significant time savings as much as it is the ability to provide more value and provide them the time to lean more into more than just the compliance work. Yeah, interesting outcome to the poll.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, actually, I would tend to agree with Matt. It's more was more of a goal to develop our team and to stay ahead of the technology that was coming at us. One of our core values in order is to have a positive impact on the members of our team, the clients that we serve, and the communities in which we live and work. And so we're a very team first, team focused group, and we want to be growing. We want to be living on kind of the edge of that growth. And it's nice to have a tool that you're familiar with, and you can say, "Oh, this is how we've always done it." But our team of high performers aren't really satisfied always with this is how we've always done it. So they want to push the envelope and make sure that they're doing the most effective and the most efficient work that they can. So the tool has really helped us to be changing how we work. It probably, to Matt's point, we haven't seen the reduction in hours per se. It's a shift in the hours, and it's improving our education and our front end, and helping our younger team members understand the beginnings of the audit a lot differently and better, and then be able to communicate to our clients differently and better than we were before. So I would say, again, we were in a forced to change position, so we didn't have as much time to sit back and reflect on this, but really we did take into account our core values and think about what is best for our team in this scenario, what's going to be the best outcome for them for the long term, and we felt like we landed in the right spot. So.
John, I like how you captured the time piece there, and it's a shifting to allow them to focus on areas where they should be focusing. I liked how you captured that.
Yeah. Well, I hear the consistency of value. Caitlin's quality is near and dear to her heart, but quality or the value you're delivering is huge. And in our work with clients, that's a big part. Is to step back and think about what your clients want versus what they need or have to have. And the need and have to have is the compliance work. What they want is that guidance and you to be their advisor and help them with how they can be better. So equipping them with the right information to make better decisions. So love it. All right. Well, we're going to go right into poll number 4, which is around improvement priorities. So which of these areas would you most like to improve in your practice? Staff efficiency, analytics, client collaboration, documentation and workflow, or quality and consistency? All right, we'll give it a little more time here. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess what Caitlin's response would have been.
They can't be all of the above.
Yeah. All right. We're going to give it another 5 seconds. Going once, going twice. All right, let's share the results. Okay. So quality and consistency, almost 30% there. Efficiency was 41%, so that's the leader. Analytics and documentation and workflow. The client collaboration was not as selected by the group. So what are the reactions here from our panelists to these results? So John, we'll go backwards. Why don't we start with you this time?
Yeah, I think the participants nailed it. Like quality and consistency, we have to have a high quality audit, and to do that, we have to be able to be consistent. So that certainly helps. What we have found, again, tagline, cliche item, like discipline equals freedom. We talk about that a lot in our team. The more disciplined and structured we can be, the more it gives our team the ability to use their brains and use the skills that they have to go and execute. So that's like a big thing for us as we moved through the Inflow Excellence series. Like I said, we were in like the crawl walk stage of let's get the audits done, let's use the tool, but we're maybe not maximizing that. And now we're focused on maximizing the tool with a focus on quality and consistency to help us from engagement to engagement, team to team. We know exactly how we're approaching this and working with our clients. That gives our team then the ability to, like I said, pull off the governor and say, okay, now I know I have the time to go dive deep into this or work directly with the client to resolve this issue. So,
Okay, thank you, John. Matt?
Yeah, not surprised with the two outcomes, the quality and consistency, and then the staff efficiency. I think the one that I would love to add, staff efficiency and effectiveness. because I think that effective plays into efficient. As leaders, when we look at our whips and we're like, oh my gosh, they've blown the whip up, they're so inefficient, it's because we don't see the production that follows the hours, right? There's a disconnect somewhere, which is the root issue. So being able to take a step back and see that those hours are effective, if we saw that there was output in production and then we see that there were inefficiencies, it's just something to work on. So I do feel like this day and age of of these this digital transformation, this audit transformation, it gives you so many different insights. And again, even with inflow, with the color coding and the dashboarding and the Caitlin alluded to some of that, those insights that you get into the file. I do feel strongly that it is going to result in more efficient, effective, and higher quality engagements. Caitlin?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll focus on the two least upvoted, which isn't surprising: client collaboration and use of analytics. And I'm sitting here wondering, well, why are those the least? And part of me thinks it's we in our legacy systems, we really didn't think it was possible, right? So we're so used to, like I said, you want to replace your legacy system, and client collaboration, use of analytics, you know, those are kind of newer concepts. I feel like back in the day, we were emailing request lists. We weren't really doing analytics outside of Excel. And now there's so many softwares offering those too. So it's really easy to have a separate vendor for each. So, we've explored a lot of vendors doing analytics and a lot of vendors for client collaboration. And what's really interesting about Inflow is just having one where you could do it all. And it's not something you think you need until you go from login to login and you're dealing with, 5 different vendors. And you don't really think of client collaboration, only 2% like that. But just think about how easy an audit is where your people are in the same system as your clients. They upload a question and it flows into your software. Again, things that, we didn't really think were possible, and we didn't think that they were a need until we saw the possibilities.
Caitlin, sorry, I know I keep saying something after you guys talk, but I love that connection again, Caitlin, because the two lowest rated are actually what helps drive the two highest rated, right? Through the use of the data analytics, we can therefore reduce our substantive testing and our sampling, which only provides efficiencies. And if that data analytics is an automated platform with an AI-driven platform, risk rating transactions, ingesting the GLs, everything that some of these modules do, that helps lead to those efficiencies, but also higher quality to where our attention is focused where it should be focused, right? That's really neat connection you made there.
Right, great insights. Okay, we're going to do our one more polling question here. I'll open it up, and I think we'll just transition. There's several questions in here, so I want to make sure we get to those. But Brandon, if you want to go ahead and launch the fifth poll on attitudes. So how would you describe the attitude of your staff toward transformation? Are they excited and proactive, open but cautious, neutral, indifferent, or resistant, or skeptical, or another word probably is terrified? So we'll give you an opportunity to answer that last polling question. I'll come back to it and we'll share the results. But I want to dig into our questions here. The first one from Chris is, when you were piloting, did you pilot the new software on live audits or on audits that were already completed? So Matt, you're off mute, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I know not to go on mute. I like to talk too much. Already completed engagements. That's one thing that I think was a great move as well. I'd caution doing live engagements just because if you come across an issue, you're in a live engagement at that point, and that could create havoc. So we did previously completed engagements, and we didn't walk them through soup to nuts, front to back. We actually focused on the core areas, the risk assessment, the significant risk areas, and the completion, and really just focused on those areas through the pilot, and that gave us the good temperature check on the platforms.
Okay. John?
We did the exact same thing.
Okay. Caitlin?
Yeah, same. Live engagements are great for the building those best practices, but when you're trying to make a decision, certainly you don't need to go through each step and have that pressure of the live engagement.
Okay. And I had scrolled down, so I missed the first question that came in, and I promised Ben I would get to it early on. So, has anyone on the panel completed GASB audits on inflow? No. Matt, is that a yes?
So, and again, my expertise was construction, and I do oversee the assurance practice now. So, excuse me, but single audits, I think that's Gatsby. Maybe, yes. Inflow comes out with updates every 2 weeks, which comes back to kind of that. You've heard us allude to some of that their pace of change and listening and their roadmap. In this last release, they actually released several single audit in GASB tie-in templates that our team was anxiously waiting on and are excited to use, and they're actively in them right now, putting them to work. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to try to summarize this a long one. The person submitting the question, they're considering inflow. They hope to gain efficiency in testing and save some hours. First question was, did you all feel like you have experienced audit efficiency, or is it too soon to tell? And then there was also a question around the demos showing fewer work papers and checklists and inflow. And ultimately, the question is, do you feel like the quality's still there? Have you been through peer review, and how did that go? So let's take the first one yet here. Have you experienced audit efficiency, or is it too soon to tell? I think Matt, you kind of addressed that you didn't see, you haven't seen a huge time savings as the main driver.
Not in year one, but I would fully expect that in year two, right?
Yeah.
I think part of it is we're still in the fresh stages of it. But I would fully expect it through leaning into the data analytics modules and some of the automation that naturally will create a reduction in the test of details, which therefore provides efficiencies.
Okay. John or Caitlin, anything you'd add to that one?
No, I would echo that.
All right, let's take the quality piece and the peer review. And Caitlin, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, so we haven't put it through peer review. I will say inflow maps to the standards. So on their website they have a mapping to where in the standard it says to do it and how they address it. So it's very cut and dry. It's easy to follow.
We will have our peer review in 2026. So this upcoming season will be subject to peer review. We're working with our rep Tom already on that. I believe there's firms going through like a mock peer review right now to understand how does this go, what does it look like, what are the learnings, what are the best practices, and he's going to share that with us. I know we've been talking to him about it in our monthly calls, and he's well ahead of it for us. So, but like Galen said, it maps to the standards. There's a peer review like Inflow No type of document where you can walk through everything. So we're not afraid of it. It's a new tool for sure, but we feel strongly that the quality's there and we'll stand up to that.
I would echo those same sentiments. The one thing that we did on the public side, though, is we did just because of the volatile environment there. We did partner with Johnson Global Advisory that's doing some in-flight reviews with us as we walk through a couple of our public companies. But outside of that, I have no concerns either. And I think part of that question might be rooted in people that are seeing it, and it's just change. It's different, right? It's not the checklist and the programs that we've been used to and we've used for decades. And I think part of that raises that you would expect it to raise that question of, well, this looks different. That means it's not potentially a quality risk. But yeah.
Well, that's kind of a nice setup for the next question that came in. Like, how did you address the areas that inflow hasn't developed out as much? So, few letter templates, no disclosure checklists, financial statements, and the context here is their firm is heavily relied on the methodology for checklists, letters, etc. And so that seems like a leap for the questioner here. So, any of you feel like you've been able to address that well?
I think we'd use other vendors. Like there's other vendors that I think CCH, Checkpoint that offer those letters. They're very standardized. So we came from RSM, so we certainly had access to all of those, but it really wasn't anything too unique than what other service providers have. I will say I think Diane asked a question about financial statement preparation. It is a little bit tough for us because we do have those SEC independence rules on most of our banks and our public, so we don't prepare too many financial statements. Inflow has on their roadmap. I don't know how soon it will be, but if you're relying on that, and I don't know, maybe Matt or John can speak to it. I have heard some firms keeping caseware or the shell of it to prepare financial statements, so that might be a route. But
Yeah, so we're using Inflow Link, no different than Caseware Connector. We still prepare, at least on the non-FI side, pretty much all of our clients' nonprofit, construction, manufacturing statements. We're finding that it's very similar to the way Caseware Connector worked. And I forget the first half of the question. Apologies.
All right, I'm keeping an eye on the clock. We've got the questions keep coming here, so we may have to follow up with some of you afterwards. We'll collect these questions and send them to our panelists, and if they have a response, they can provide that, and we'll send it out. So someone asked, has anyone completed a single audit under Inflow?
We're in the process now. We did bring over because we're actually still covered through the RSM methodology. We kind of have an overlap period here, but with Inflow just releasing new content around single audit, we are actively working on that now, but have not seen it through completion yet. On the last question, I do remember what it was, but it was about the potential gaps in the methodology, the forms, the templates. And I just wanted to concur with Caitlin. That's an area that we were focused on initially, but then realized that, we've also always been a CCH Accounting Research Manager subscriber. All of those templates are available within those other platforms and other vendors that offer that.
Okay, well, I said I'd go back. Let's share the results. We're not going to spend time digging into them, but for that last question, it looks like a majority would say their team is open but cautious, which is a standard human reaction, I think, and pretty common. So I'm gonna wrap us up. I want to say thank you again to our sponsor Inflow for supporting today's webinar. And a big thank you to Matt, Caitlin, and John. I mean, time flies when you're having fun. This was a great discussion. I think you really, by sharing your experiences and insights, I imagine you probably helped some people in our audience get their arms around what is truly transformation and a big change. So, today we heard about how this transformation isn't an idea; it's actually underway across the profession. And while firms are on different stages of that journey, they face a lot of the same opportunities and challenges. So we saw today the power of peer-to-peer learning in just a very short time together. And of course, I want to thank everyone out there for joining us today and contributing to the polls and the Q&A. I do want to mention Inflow will be sponsoring another webinar with Boomer Consulting on October 9th, same time as today, on leading change, navigating technology transformation in audit firms. And that'll feature Johnny Hubbs of Inflow and Ariana Campbell of Boomer Consulting. So again, thank you, Inflow. Thank you to our amazing panel. And thank you to the audience. We appreciate you giving up a little bit of your time today. And we look forward to seeing you on a future Boomer Consulting webinar. Have a great rest of your day.